Welcome to Lair the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, a review of the new live album from Nick Mason's Saucerful of Secrets, entitled Live at the Roundhouse. Nick Mason was the drummer for Pink Floyd. He was there with them from the beginning all the way to the end. And when I heard that he had put this group together and had this live album, I really wasn't sure what to expect, because when people think of Pink Floyd, usually the first people that come to mind are David Gilmour and Roger Waters, because they wrote the bulk of the music and they sang lead vocals on most of the songs, and most of the big hits were sung by either Roger or Dave. When you think of the early band, you think of Syd Barrett, who wrote most of the music on their first album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and sang all the lead vocals, most of the lead vocals on the really early Pink Floyd stuff. So I really wasn't sure what this was going to be about, but I've got to say that I absolutely love it. And what Nick did with this, in my opinion, was very, very smart on a bunch of different levels. Starting with the band that he put together. These are all really great players. Now, it's Nick Mason on drums, Guy Pratt on bass, who had played bass with Pink Floyd in their later years, and I believe he also played with David Gilmour on some of David Gilmour's solo things. Not 100% sure about that, but I think that's the case. Gary Kemp on guitar and vocals. He was also the vocalist and guitarist with Spandau Ballet. Lee Harris also on guitar, and Dom Becken on keyboards. And these guys are all fantastic musicians. The vocals are great. Pretty much all the vocals are done by Gary Kemp, although I believe Guy Pratt sings one or two songs here also. But there's a lot of great background vocals, and the playing is just fantastic. The other thing that I think was really, really smart is that this live album only plays songs from the first 7 Pink Floyd albums, and a lot of stuff from the Syd Barrett era of the band, a lot of Syd Barrett tunes. And the reason why I think this is really smart is because if he had come out and just done an album that was Wish You Were Here, Another Brick in the Wall, Money, Time, like all the big hits, it would have kind of been like, what's the point of this? It wouldn't have felt right, because although Nick Mason, hey, he's been with the band through their entire career, Nick wasn't a primary songwriter by any stretch. He has some co-writes on some songs through their catalog, but he never sang lead vocals on anything. He was never like a primary songwriter. So how do you handle something like that? When I first heard that he was about this project, it made me think of Ringo Starr and Ringo Starr's all-star band, where Ringo goes out, he has a fantastic band, and they play old Beatles stuff. Now, it's a little different with Ringo, because Ringo sang on a fair number of Beatles songs. So, he gets up there with his band and he sings all the numbers like Yellow Submarine and stuff like that he did with the band, plus a bunch of other things. So it's a little different with Nick, because he doesn't sing vocals on anything. But again, so I think it's really smart what he did by not doing any of the hits that are really associated with, like let's say Comfortably Numb. Roger Waters and David Gilmour's vocals in that, or David's vocals on Wish You Were Here, or Money, or Time. Those things are so, everybody so associates them with the David Gilmour or Roger Waters, that it would be hard to to do those things and to not, I don't know, for it to not feel right. So doing what he does, in my opinion, is really smart. And focusing on this early era of the band also gives it a really unique thing here, because a lot of the songs, and I'm going to go down the list of songs here, a lot of these songs the band never or barely ever played live. So it's really interesting to hear these songs done in a live setting. And I already talked about the band. All the guys in the band are fantastic musicians, and they stick closely to the songs, but they also interject enough of their own personality into it that it doesn't sound like they're just trying to be a tribute band, that's trying to sound exactly like the original recordings. They're faithful enough to the original recordings, but they also interject enough of their own personality and enough little changes here and there that it makes it really interesting. And the way they play a lot of these old songs gives it a really fresh, energetic feel. So again, I think that it's just a perfect idea of what he did here. It makes it, really fascinating to hear some of these songs in a live setting. So let's get to the songs. Now, I mentioned there's a lot of Syd Barrett era songs. For those who don't know, Syd Barrett was the founder, original guitarist, one of the founders of the band. He was there early on, and on their very first album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, he was the creative force on that. He was the primary songwriter, did the vocals, sort of drove the direction of the band at that point. Saucerful of Secrets, their second album, he was sort of involved with that. It's a complicated story. I won't totally get into it. But due to some drug and health and mental issues, Syd Barrett left the band, or the band just sort of moved on without him, basically. But his influence on the band was immense early on. So on this live recording, Nick Mason's Saucerful of Secrets band, they do a bunch of Barrett era songs. They do Lucifer Sam, died a cat, song about Sid's cat, Bike, See Emily Play, Arnold Lane, Vegetable Man, Astronomy Dominate. And it's really, really cool because a lot of these songs, like I just mentioned, Lucifer Sam, it's like they interject. It's got a little bit more energy to it. It's just rocking, man. It's like they don't really change a whole lot in it, but they just sort of give it a little bit more energy, a little bit of a different feel. I also love the way the band, they take, like in Astronomy Dominate, they in the middle of that song when it gets all sort of trippy, that's where they sort of stretch out a little bit, and you'll hear sometimes in these songs they'll do little quotes from other songs. The guitar will play a little lick or something from another song, or the bass player will play a little lick from like a Who song or something. So it's really, really neat and keeps you really engaged. Astronomy Dominate, that was a song that when I was doing my instrumentals video, I mentioned that song. Just awesome. The whole show starts with Interstellar Overdrive, which is just another great. That song was written by the entire band, but it comes from their first album. So it's, that Syd Barrett era from the Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Bike, this is a song that, I don't know, did they ever play that song live? I don't know. If they did, it was certainly only very, very early on. And this, another Syd Barrett song. And the really cool thing about Syd Barrett, his writing was really unique. His style of writing, the way he phrased his lines and the lyrics and the chord progressions, they're very sort of sing-songy, you can sing along with them, but they have these weird sort of little twists and turns in the way he just sort of arranges the songs. Very unique, very cool. So Bike sounds great on here. See Emily Plays, really cool. Arnold Lane, this one really, man, just, the energy in this one, Arnold Lane had a strange hobby, and the band just really kicks it, they just sort of kick it up a notch, man. It's just really rocking. And even Nick Mason, he's not a drummer that, I certainly wouldn't put him in the category of like, John Bonham or, from Ian Pace from Deep Purple. He's not that kind of technical style drummer. He's more like a Ringo Starr style drummer. He plays pretty simple. He plays for the songs. But man, he is kicking it in a lot of these things. And like Arnold Layne is, a good example of that. And they do a lot of really obscure ones like Vegetable Man. Vegetable Man is another Syd Barrett song. And it was an unreleased song. It was eventually released on this massive box set, early years box set that they put out so many years ago. But before that, this is a really rare cut. So really cool that they pull out these really obscure songs. Another really obscure one that they do is Point Me Towards the Sky. I think I have the title of that correct. And that was another obscure one that it was only not released on any studio albums. Point Me at the Sky, I'm sorry. Not released on any, it's a non-studio track. It was a really early Roger Waters, David Gilmour co-write. And that's what they end the concert with. So just really awesome that they weren't afraid to really pick anything. And I think there's a live DVD that goes along with this live album. And it's a packed crowd, and you can see that the crowd is really digging and appreciating the fact that they're playing all these sort of unique, obscure songs. And then they also pick from, Pink Floyd albums that don't get talked a lot about, like Obscured by Clouds or More, which was like a soundtrack album with some original songs on it and some soundtrack songs on it. So for instance, from the Obscured by Clouds album, they do this song Obscured by Clouds, which is really cool. This like trippy instrumental. It's got, Nick Mason's drums sound great on this. When You're In is another one from Obscured by Clouds, kind of an obscure deep cut. From the Saucerful of Secrets album, they do Remember a Day. They do the song Saucerful of Secrets, which is really a cool selection. This is also one that the band did do live a bunch of times, and you can see it on the Pink Floyd at Pompeii video, where it starts off just with a lot of like sort of crazy, it goes into a section where there's all this just like crazy noise, and it builds up really big, and then there's just like the organ comes in and it moves into this really beautiful chord progression, this real beautiful section, but it has this really crazy section. There's the gong, big gong cymbal and everything, and they do that on here. So really hats off to them for picking a kind of a song from the really experimental era of Pink Floyd. Let There Be More Light. That's another one from Saucerful of Secret. It's got that really cool bass line in it. And I love Guy Pratt's bass playing on this whole record, man. He stays pretty true to what was originally played, but then he very tastefully he'll just play a little bit extra here and there, and it really just adds to the whole thing. From the More soundtrack, you get Nile's song, which was this aggressive kind of, David Gilmour, I was running by the Nile. David, like, at the top of his range. Green is the Color, kind of a nice laid-back ballad. That's also from More. Let's see, was there anything else from Metal? You get Fearless, which is which comes across really, really excellent on this. This is one that on the original recording, there's like some chanting on it that I believe they took from like a soccer game, the European football game. And they pipe that in here. When I first heard it, I thought, wow, is that the crowd? They're singing along just like on the recording. But the crowd is singing along, but there's also like a tape or a track playing. But just really cool, man. And it just sounds fantastic on this recording. Also from, let's see, what else did I miss here? Oh, man. They do from Atom Heart Mother, they play If, which is this beautiful ballad. It's really gentle, like acoustic ballad. And if I was grown, swan, I would fly away. And when they come to the end of it, they go into Atom Heart Mother, the song Atom Heart Mother, which on this studio recording is with an orchestra. But here they do it with just the band. Now, if you heard me mention that Pink Floyd early years box set earlier, if you listen to that, there's a couple of recordings of the band, the original Pink Floyd band, playing Atom Heart Mother just as as the group there without the orchestra. And that's the way they do it here. And it is so cool. Now, they sort of, I think, edit the song a little bit so it's not as long as on the original. But it's so cool hearing it done with just the band. And like, they even imitate some of the choir stuff with just the keyboard. And man, that's another highlight on this, because I love Atom Heart Mother and I love that song. That's going to be an album I'm going to definitely talk about, maybe as like an in defense of or a hidden gem of their catalog. I love it, and it's so cool that they do that here. Just absolutely awesome. So, like I said, what really sells this for me is the set list, and they don't do. I mean, probably the most quote popular songs that they do here. They do One of These Days, which is really cool, totally awesome. And they do Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. I love that song. So, Roger Waters' song, and so ominous and moody and everything. And those are probably maybe the most popular things that they do on here, is, outside of like Arnold Lane, which was a hit for the band back then, See Emily Play. Some of those songs were, hits for the band, hit singles for them that were never put on any of the studio albums. But again, it's really, for me, this is just all about the song selection. It's just excellent. The musicianship is excellent. The harmony vocals are spot on. And the way they just adds just that little bit of extra energy and excitement to these songs is just so cool. So if you're a fan of Pink Floyd in general, check this out. You're going to love it. If you're not familiar with the really early stuff, this may be a good gateway for you to hear this and to send you back to listen to some of that stuff. If you're a fan of the early stuff, especially the Syd Barrett stuff, you're going to love this, because it's got a lot of Syd Barrett. It's got a lot of the early stuff. These obscure numbers, like Obscured by Clouds and stuff like this. So cool to hear somebody play this. And I wish more bands would do this. Go back through your catalog and play some of this obscure stuff that you don't have to play. It doesn't have to do an entire tour like this, but it's just so awesome to hear these obscure and more deeper cut songs being played live like this and being done so well. And the recording quality, the recording is just excellent. I don't have a physical copy of it yet. I'm definitely going to order the vinyl, but I just stumbled across this. I somehow missed when this, I think, I didn't know anything about this, and I heard about it found out about it in a really sort of a strange way. I had heard that Nick Mason had this group. I didn't know what it was about, and I saw a video of Guy Pratt, the bass player, doing like one of these COVID session things here, playing through some of these songs, and I was like, whoa. And it sort of led me back to this. I was like, okay, this is what this is about. I had heard it, I just didn't know what it was about, and it's so cool. So Pink Floyd fans, man, if you haven't heard this yet, check it out. You're gonna love it. Nick Mason and the band, man, thank you for doing this, and thank you for taking the chance on this. The easy way out would have been to just do another Brick in the Wall and all the hits, but thank you for digging deeper. So, all right, let me know if you've heard this yet. If you haven't, go listen to it and come back and comment and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the early Pink Floyd stuff, Barrett era stuff. I haven't talked much about that, and I will at some point in the future. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.